And supposedly we're live here on YouTube and LinkedIn Live as well. This is a new platform that we're trying out today. So I hope it's working. And if it is, give us a shout in the comments. Hi, everyone. And welcome to our NoCode Ops community show. Like every Thursday, if you're in our community or if you're not in our community, you should know that we gather here every Thursday at this time, inviting guest speakers from the no-code world to better help our operators with their day-to-day performance. And today, we're very lucky to have Matthew Busel as our guest speaker. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. But I know, Matthew, that we've never met before, but actually, we have a lot of people in common. I was just looking at the interest for your event and like all the people commenting, and I was like, oh, Harshit, or oh, Hillary knows you, and Maria knows you, of course. So you're quite well known in, I guess, the Webflow world, but also you're the co-founder at Whalesync. So if you want to give us a little bit of an introduction on, your journey and how you started Whalesync, what Whalesync is all about, and then we can dive into our topic for today, which is build internal tools without bothering your engineers.
Well, that's perfect. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It is a small world, the no-code community. So I'm glad that we have a lot of overlap there. But just to give a little background on us, Whalesync, myself, I guess, before getting into, like you mentioned, the topic of internal tools, we started the company a little bit under 2 years ago. My background is in product. So prior to starting Wheelsync, I was a PM for a virtual reality startup and then about 100-person company called MakeSpace. But along the way, I've just been building with these no-code tools. So I very much, I think, would have considered myself a no-code operator not too long ago. I, back in the day, was building with Wix and Weebly and WordPress before no-code really became the major movement it is. Eventually graduated to Airtable, Webflow, and Zapier. And after years of using these tools, I just started to realize that aside from being these cool things that I could kind of use at work or use to build side projects, this was really going to transform the way that everybody works, gets software built. And so after about 2 years at MakeSpace, I quit to go try to build the no-code stack that I thought was missing. I teamed up with my co-founder, Curtis. His background very quickly, he built a no-code website builder back in 2012 and sold that company to Google, spent about 6 years at Google on the Maps team. And so we started off our journey just by talking with no-code builders. And the thing that kept coming up time and again was people were using Zapier in this crazy way, really building like 20-step apps to essentially sync data across different tools. And that's how we stumbled into Whalesync.
Awesome. And because the actual definition of your platform of Whalesync is like a platform that connects data from one no-code tool to the other, isn't it? So that's really interesting. And talking about no-code operators, as you mentioned, we're building a whole community around operators, right? And it's fairly a new career path around the world, mostly developing in the US and gradually, moving towards Europe as well. How would you describe a no-code operator for our audience? Because I often say, we have a community of no-code operators, and they always ask me, "Oh, what's a no-code operator?" So how would you describe that?
Yeah, I love that question, and it's something that I guess it's changing every year as these tools get different and better. From my perspective, at least, it's really just anyone, whether you're a developer or not, that is using these no-code tools within organizations to make change, right? So like, I'll just give a specific example. Before the word no-code operator was a thing, back at the company I was working for, I was known as the Notion guy. And so I'm sure that probably a lot of the people in the no-code operator space have some similar nickname, whether it's Airtable or Zapier or whatnot. So yeah, I'd say just mainly people that are using these no-code tools and affecting change within organizations.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And what do you have in for us today?
Awesome. So I have two things I want to show today. The thing that comes up when we talk about data syncing, right? I think conceptually people understand, oh, that's copying data from one app to another, from Airtable to Webflow. What people don't necessarily know off the bat is why. Like, what can I use this technology of data syncing for, and how can that help me? And so I want to show today two different examples to really just get different ideas going for people. And they're really the key use cases that people have been using Whalesync for. And so I'll start with one, which is how to build an internal tool using Postgres database and Airtable. And then the second one is how to build programmatic SEO pages. So how to literally within a few minutes create hundreds or thousands of pages that can start ranking on Google.
Amazing. Well, looking forward to seeing that, and I'm sure our audience is as well. I can see Maria is in the room, Marcelo. So hi, people. Great to see you here.
Hey, Maria. And by the way, so of course, feel free to cut me off anytime with questions. Just in general, does this work for you, Claudia? About like 10 minutes on each demo?
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Otherwise, I can dive in.
Yeah, I think we can start, and then at the end we're gonna have some time left for some Q&A with the people.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen, and okay, let me know.
Yeah, I can see that. Perfect.
All right, we'll keep the chat up here if that's okay. Let's go ahead and move this over. All right, cool. So to start, so just to give a little background here, if you are working within a software company, very likely you're using a production database to store information about your users at the very least, or really any other business data. It's very likely, or at least one of a few possibilities, that is what's called a Postgres database. Postgres is, again, one of the most popular databases used today across different software companies. And so this is an example of it. It's a super simple one. You'd never really have one that is this small, really, but just for the sake of the example, so you can understand what's going on here, imagine you've got your users, your company has users in a production database, right? So you've got people like Pete here and Bradley and Margot. Now, typically this being in a production database is only accessible to the software engineers on the team. They often need to build data pipelines or in some other way interact with that data. But if you're an operator at the company, you might want to edit information, right? You could be on the sales team and find out that they've updated their email address, or on customer success, need to update their status of is active or not. Things like this. Being able to work with this data is really key.
Hey Matthew, one thing. Do you mind? Let's close the chat, and I would float any questions to you so people can see the entire screen share. Just put that on the entire. Perfect.
How's that?
Yeah, you can put it on full screen, and we will. Yeah.
Oops.
And I will ask you any questions that pops up.
Beautiful. That works.
Thank you, Jens. Shout out to our co-host Jens.
Yeah, and I'll make it a little bigger here. Let's.
Perfect. Yeah, that looks a lot. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, so as you can see, we got some users here. What we're going to do is take Airtable, which I'm sure a lot of people here are pretty familiar with. A really great way to view and edit data. Again, very accessible to people that are not software engineers. And the key is with data syncing, what we'll be able to do is take the data that's in this Postgres database, sync it into Airtable, and then be able to edit it here. So the way we'll do that is using Whalesync. This is our tool. It's pretty simple. You start with hitting create new. The first thing we'll do is just connect to our two apps. So let's start with Postgres. You pick Postgres here, just like you would in Zapier or any of these other tools. The way you connect is with a connection string. So let's grab that here in settings. And then we can go to database and scroll to the bottom here. So Supabase lets you just copy this Postgres connection string. Any Postgres database you have will have the ability to grab that connection string as well, or at least create it. So we'll save our connection to Postgres. Airtable, we're gonna do something really similar. We're gonna authorize that. We'll just grab the API key and the base sharing link. And the key here again is we're just connecting to these two tools so Whalesync can understand what you want to sync. So once we've connected, let's hit map tables. Here, we're just going to tell Whalesync what we want to have synced, right? So just to go back to this database again, we've got a users table and a companies table, and that has a name and an is active and an email field. And if we go over to Airtable, we've got the same setup: users and companies, name is active, email. So over in Whalesync, we're we're going to map that users table to the users table, the companies table to the companies table, and then pick the sync direction. So if we only wanted to sync data one way from Postgres into Airtable, we could do that. But again, a lot of the power here is being able to two-way sync it, so you can actually update the data directly from Airtable. So we'll hit map fields. We're going to do the same idea here for each of those individual fields. Like I mentioned, we map the tables together. Now we're going to say name field in this company's table. So map with the name field in the company's Airtable base. Same for these other fields. We'll hit save. Get a little congratulations, base created. We'll turn syncing on. And immediately we'll start to see this initialize. And within a few seconds, this will start to count the number of updates and then count down. So if we come back over to Airtable, and if we refresh, what we'll start to see happening is all of the data that's in our Postgres database is starting to sync into Airtable. So these are the companies. If we look at this companies table, right, we've got a bunch of companies. They're already here in our Airtable base. If we come back over to users, same idea. It's just immediately creating and syncing the data from Postgres into Airtable. And so if we come back over here to the dashboard, this is done. We're done syncing, which is great. And now we have this internal tool. So now anyone that's non-technical can actually update users. And so let's take, for example, Kevin Hart. Let's say he changed his email address to my new email at kevin.com and change to inactive, right? We make that update immediately in Whalesync. It starts to sync it. Over.
I like how quick the integration is. It's really great. We have Carmia, hi Carmia, and Tyler Selhorn joining the chat. And Tyler is asking, this is me trying to parse what Whalesync does. Segment for no coders.
Interesting. I like that comparison. Similar in that it is segment is taking data, from one place and kind of distributing it wherever you need it. I think the difference between segment, or to try to help parse this, is that segment is syncing data in one direction, right? It's taking the data from Postgres, let's say, into Airtable. What we're going to do with Whalesync is like make the bits talk to the other bits, but also bidirectionally. And so what we'll see here is we've synced the data from Postgres into Airtable, but then if we go find Kevin Hart here, right, we were able to update Kevin from our Airtable base, right? So to give another example, let's say someone on the sales team talks to a new user here, and let's say that new user is my let's say Airtable Aaron, right? Airtable at aaron.com, right? All of a sudden we've got this this record here in Airtable. If we come back over to Supabase and refresh, Airtable Aaron immediately appears back in our database. And so again, what this enables is like now you can take your true production data and hand it over to the people that are actually doing working with customers or working with this. And to take it one step further, I won't go all the way here in the demo just for the sake of time, but if you're familiar with Airtable interfaces, what you can go ahead and do is build, let's say, maybe one of these, a record summary, or I'll do a blank one. Finish this here. And so what you can kind of quickly do is build out a dashboard, right? Something in Airtable for your team to edit that will ultimately come back into this production database.
Brilliant. We also have another flash question. So we're not even waiting for the Q&A. Today is really hot.
I love it.
So Vladislav from LinkedIn is asking, can we link only if the table in Airtable is prepared in advance?
Yes, for now that is the case, which is that you will need to mirror your data that you have, like whatever the tables are in Postgres, you'll have to create those same tables in Airtable. That being said, Airtable actually just released an update to their API that will make it possible to auto-create things like tables and fields based on what you have in other places. So one day we'd love to build that feature, but for now, yes, you do need to prepare the Airtable base.
Perfect. All right, no more questions. You're good to go.
Cool. All right, sweet. And just timing-wise, was this about the right time to move on to programmatic SEO, or just otherwise?
Yeah, we're doing well. Still got a good solid 40 minutes.
Okay, cool. But yeah, and so just to, I guess, to wrap this piece up, which is Airtable interfaces, if you're not familiar, are really just easy way. It's sort of like Softer. You can kind of drag and drop, let's say, a heading here, which would be user dashboard, something like that. We can add, let's say, a record picker like this. Do it off a name.
And they're a relatively new feature as well around the Airtable interface.
So you can come in here, right? And let's make this editable. So just to show, this is again a really rough version, but in this interface, you can literally, hand this to the sales team, to the marketing team, to the operations team, give them access. And now, if you edit this data and change Pete Davidson to John Smith, right? You're literally updating the data that's in your Airtable base. So if we come back here, we come back to the data. Where is Pete or John Smith here? Here. So Pete Davidson, right? Changed to John Smith. Because this is syncing with Whalesync, if we come back and refresh, it literally gets updated. Where's Pete? Somewhere in here. Updated, yeah, John Smith back in your Postgres database. So that is that. I will switch over now to the second demo. Let's pause this guy. So maybe just give a little background on programmatic SEO. Oh, sorry, I see one other question there.
Which one? Oh, it just came up. Yeah. When have you identified edges of Whalesync that needed data warehouse and dashboard software like Looker?
Yeah, really good question. So long term, right, over the next few years, we'd love to eventually build out Whalesync to support, kind of all those use cases when it comes to data warehouses, things like exactly Looker and other BI tools. Today, I'd say it's almost a different use case. If you are trying to do sort of taking tons and tons of data and maybe using an ETL tool like Fivetran and pumping it into a data warehouse, that is Fivetran and Airbright. Those ETL tools are just better at dealing with millions of rows of records across tons and tons of integrations and dumping it into a warehouse. Where Whalesync really shines and comes in is if you need to operate with that data and sort of work with it, right? And so this being a good example, and the other example I'll show in a minute is like your team wants to go into Airtable and not just sort of view this data or analyze it, right, with Looker, but actually work with it, make updates and changes, and have that sync back the other way. So I would think of Whalesync more in the context of like maybe some of the things you're currently using Zapier to do. Whereas if you are doing like large scale data warehouse, data pipelines, you're probably better off with some of those ETL tools.
Great.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to give one more example. And so this is around programmatic SEO. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I'll just give a little example, which is if you Google integrate, let's say Google Sheets and Notion, something like that, right? The things that come up here, right, are Zapier as a page, High Touch as a page. Let's take a look at Zapier's. So this is what's called a programmatic SEO page. So Zapier has a page that ranks on Google for every combination of tools, basically known to man, but at least for about 5,000 different tools that shows their integration between those two, right? And so if we just do another one, which would be like integrate Shopify and Airtable, right? Zapier will have that page as well. Right, and so these two are exactly the same with slightly different data. But what it does is it allows Zapier to rank on Google for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of different pages like this. And so it's really, really powerful if you can create those two. Zapier pioneered this and very likely built this, with engineering resources and invested a ton of time into it. What's possible now with Airtable, Webflow, and Wheelsync is to do something very similar in literally a couple minutes, and to get it to obviously have as much information as it is on this page will take a little bit more time, but truly you can set up something like Zapier does in a couple of days. So just to give an example,
and that's wild. Just hearing you describing it, it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you care about SEO, which most companies do, the traditional path is write 10 or 20 or 50 different pieces of blog content or blog posts, and that just takes a ton of time. And so instead, you can literally launch hundreds or thousands of these pages in not in a couple hours. So just to give an example, here's a free template you can grab from Webflow called Chomp, and basically it's a fake delivery app company like a DoorDash or an Uber Eats.
And by the way, because I knew you were coming today for the talk, I'm wearing my branded Webflow sweater. So just
I just, by the way, if you haven't checked out the Webflow merch store, I just got some Webflow merch. So next time I'll wear it as well.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so exactly, we love Webflow. They're great. Here's a example site. What you can do is create through their CMS a template page. So we'll call this the location pages template. And basically here we have taken the image that I just showed before and made it a variable, and the heading that we showed before and made it a variable, right? There's nothing here right now. In Airtable, what I've done is created just 10 example location pages. So what we're going to do is for every city in the US, eventually, or starting with these 10, we'll create a different landing page that ranks on Google, looking for the keywords best takeaway and food delivery in city, right? And so just if you're familiar with Airtable, the way we set that up is we include a location here. We have a simple formula that's just taking that location, adding it on, and then we've added an image that is specific to that city, right? So here's one for New York. And so what we're going to do with Whalesync is sync this data into Webflow, and Webflow will take it and create these landing pages for us, so that again we can have our own Zapier-like strategy for specific cities. So just to go through this process again, we'll start by just connecting to our two tools. So let's start with Airtable. We'll grab that API key one more time. Oops, where are we? Here we go. And we'll grab a base sharing link here like this. Oops. Airtable has a little bug, even the big guys.
Always. And
yeah.
There's one thing that always happens during our lives, and I just love the live troubleshooting because that's real life, isn't it?
Exactly.
Doesn't always go to plan.
If anyone from Airtable is watching this bug has been around for a while now. But yeah, so Airtable will authorize that. Webflow will authorize as well. Let's do Chomp. And we'll save and map these tables. Again, this should be really similar if you were just watching the example before. We're going to take the locations and we'll sync those two up. And then same idea for the fields. We'll sync this H1 image and location over into Webflow. We'll turn syncing on. This will start to run, show you the different updates. And while that's syncing, I'll just show over in Whalesync, we've got this logs page. So you can start to see as things update, you can see the actual individual update here. So you click in and say, oh, okay, what happened? Whalesync took something that was null and added an image, added that H1 and a city. So we're all done syncing. We can come back over to Webflow, refresh. And there we go. Best takeaway and food delivery in San Francisco. We can start to click through here in New York, in Miami.
That's
right?
cool.
It's let's go Seattle, right?
That's amazing. Can you go through the steps again, just like one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to publish this just so you can kind of see literally how easy this is.
Awesome.
Because we now have, literally, this is Seattle. If we do /
I mean,
Miami.
that just took the time that I spent glancing at the chat for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this stuff, SEO, right, is so important, right? If you can start to rank in Google and get hundreds of thousands of visitors to your site, it is just a very low expense way to drive traffic. And so
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so we have these pages, and again, I've just customized, just for the sake of this demo, this one word really, city and this image, but everything on the site you can do the same way. So you can customize, have a specific thing that talks about why as a New Yorker, this delivery app is great. And if you scroll down, maybe the menu might change, right? So if you want to show different menus for every city, maybe, London has something different than California, right? This can all be customized and personalized to make that page really unique. But so, yeah, just to quickly go through these steps again and overview here. All we did was we built an Airtable database that had our unique content. So for this example, locations. Alternatively, if we were doing an integrations page like Zapier, we could have a database of different apps. We've created a formula that takes those locations and creates sort of unique content and subs that information in. And then we've added images that are, again, unique to the page.
Where do you find that formula on Airtable?
Yeah, so this one, it's just a really simple one, which is we're taking whatever we want to say in this H1, so compare it, best takeaway and food delivery, and then we're just substituting a variable for the city and location. So you can do this. You can do much fancier formulas and whatnot, but really the key is you want to bring in the unique city here for this example and bring it into the formula. Just to give it, I can even build another one just really quickly, which is if we do a long text and make this our subtext, and oops, we want to make this a formula, and we can do we are the quickest delivery service around, or service in.
Philip Lakin is saying this plus chat GPT equals dreams.
I love that. And by the way, so Notion, I don't know if anyone here uses Notion. Notion announced that they're about to launch an AI tool in Notion. And so we sync data with Notion. You can do the same exact thing I'm showing here, but syncing data from Notion to Webflow. And so, yeah, with their AI tool, you'll be able to do some pretty cool stuff.
Do you sometimes feel like technology is running faster than our legs, or?
Oh yeah, seriously. And by the way,
I can't keep up with everything, and I am so curious and eager to know it all. And it's just like there's always something new to learn, which is great.
Yeah. There's so many new tools, and with AI, I can't even keep up as well. It's incredible. I'll give you even one more example of how you can take this to the next level. I haven't set it up here, but just if you're interested, there's a tool called Abasale that Airtable has a integration with, and it'll auto-generate images in bulk. So right now for these 10 images, I just grabbed them from Unsplash and copy and pasted them into this Airtable base. But you could literally have Abasale auto-create images or auto-pull images in. And so as you create a new city, like, I don't know, let's say
London. Oh, you got London.
Yeah, we have London, whatever. Yeah, London. Let's say Bali, right? With Abasale set up, this could auto-generate an image. And to take it even further, one day with GPT-3 and whatnot, you can have them auto-create your own unique images and put that in there as well. So yeah, really excited about the possibilities.
It is great. I have so many controversial thoughts about this all, but it's great. So far, it's still astonishment and yay, this is gonna be amazing. And yeah, we'll see.
I love it. Yeah, it's fair enough. Yeah, you don't know where it's going, but for now, it's cool.
Ian Binek from YouTube is asking, this is so cool. What is the benefit to using Whalesync over Zapier? Doesn't Zapier have an integration for Airtable to Webflow CMS? Yes,
really good question. So for what we just set up here, using Zapier would probably be fairly fine, right? I think the big difference between Zapier and Whalesync is because Zapier is an automation tool, it'll just create records one time, right? Or update records one time. So whereas Wheelsync is literally two-way syncing this data. And so if you need to make lots of changes to this, you're iterating it over time, or you have thousands of pages, that's where Whalesync starts to come in. With 10 like this, right, Zapier would be a great option. One other big reason, and something I didn't put in this demo, but one really nice thing about programmatic SEO pages built this way is that you can create backlinks. So using something called linked records in Airtable, we could have, let's say, a locations table here, and then another table that is, I don't know, let's say the menu, like menus or food items, right? And if we want to have a page that looks like this, where we have specific food items for every different city, something like a linked record here. Let's just do this really quick. Food items. Let's skip that, and we'll come in here and we'll do like burger and hot dog and pasta, something like that, right? So having this sort of setup is really powerful for SEO because then you can tell Google essentially my burger page, my pasta page, my hot dog page, this is related to New York. And that helps things get indexed. Creating these reference fields and linked records and syncing those with Zapier becomes really, really painful. It's possible, but if you know anyone that's tried to do it, they'll probably tell you that it takes hours to get done. Whereas Whalesync, setting up something like this is pretty much just as easy as what I showed before.
Awesome. Great.
We do have quite a few questions if you want to try on a few.
Oh, yeah, sure.
First of all, I've been watching it in the background. I love it. So nice to see. It's going to be a great tool for creating, I mean, what we are going to do in the future as well.
Let me give it a clap. You hear that? I have a new toy. I have to play with it.
Oh, I love that. That's hilarious.
So one of the questions, how are you mapping, or can you map each SEO field with Webflow custom embed HTML or custom code?
Yes, really good question. So this is a free Webflow site that I just created for this demo. And so if we come over to add fields, it doesn't let me do an embed. But just to say it out loud, yeah, you can actually, give me 1 sec. I'll show you our own site. Because we use, so as a little background, we use our own tool, Airtable, Webflow, and Whalesync, to create programmatic SEO pages for ourselves, right? And so we actually do use the embed. What's going on here? 1 sec. We use the embed, there we go, team to create our own, and I'll just show you what this looks like really quickly. So this is the Whalesync website. We have pages just like Zapier for every different combination of integrations. So if we take a look at our, let's say, I think it's Syncs template here, you can kind of see similar idea, right? We have all these different combinations of integrations that rank on Google. If we take a look at this, we have this H1 heading that it works a little slightly differently, but we have an H1 and we just pull in the information this way. Yeah, that's the basic idea.
Great. And that was Marcelo's question. I hope that helped, Marcelo. Happy to see you here with us today. Did you have any more questions?
We do. So is there any in real life examples that you can share and names changed to protect the innocent? So can you give us any like real life examples how this has been used?
From like in using Whalesync or just in general with programmatic SEO?
Using Whalesync. Who did anyone use it, and can you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you an example, which is one of our favorites. So Webflow, we're big fans of Webflow. We are users of Webflow. Webflow is also a user of Whalesync. And so they actually use Whalesync to create SEO pages, or sorry, not SEO pages, event pages for every event here on webflow.com/events. Right. So similar idea, which is It looks a little different visually, but the fundamentals are the same, which is they have all their events stored in the Airtable base, and those events are synced into Webflow. I'll give you one more example. So this is another YC company that we really like. So it's called Homestead. They're awesome. They basically have a different page for every potential address. So here it says enter an address in California. Let's do, let's say. So you check for eligibility. It's gathers some data. And then in 1 second here, it'll show a unique page. Yeah, here we go. So all this information here, right, which is giving me, it has an image here that's pulled. It's got, what is it here? Different information about whether it's zoned for SB9 and whether it's in a flood zone. All this information, right? If you were trying to build this page one at a time for every address in the country, would take forever. Instead, they just load it up into an Airtable base, they sync it over into Webflow, and they immediately have thousands of these pages for every single different potential address.
This is almost
cool.
like cheating, I think. There should be a tax or something on you. we do have another.
To be true.
We do have another question in the chat, actually. Ian, can you explain the benefit of the two-way integration again? Maybe with an example could help me understand it better.
Yeah, let me give. I can actually create a new one. I don't. By the way, how much time do we have? Because if we have 2 minutes, I can just show one more example here.
Yeah, you can. We got 20 minutes roughly.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So let me go ahead and let me give one more example here. We'll turn this off for a second, and let's duplicate this guy. We'll call this, location pages copy. We don't want the record. Duplicate this. So imagine, for example, that you have this location pages database, right? And this is a really important database for your company. Again, you can imagine like Homestead, those thousands of records are really important to them. And so let's say they want someone else to add more pages, or they want another team to work on this. But they don't want to give access to their main Airtable database because maybe it has other information that they don't want to share. Instead, what they can do is two-way sync data between the original Airtable and this new one. And so maybe we'll call this location pages for editing, something like that, right? And over in Whalesync, what we can do, let's go to Airtable. We'll go ahead and, as you've probably guessed, authorize our two tools. So let's take this one here, and we'll grab that base sharing link again and come on over here. So we authorize this new Airtable base. We'll do the same one, but for the original. So again, we'll grab our API key, like that, and we'll come back to the original and grab this. And maybe just to make this a little easier to see, maybe we'll change the new one to blue, right? So we've got red and blue. We'll authorize there. Let's save, map. Again, really quickly, you can get this data syncing. Done, done, done. Turn this on. This will start to sync. And we come back over here. The records get created. So far, this is all one way, right? And I'll let it just finish here before showing off the two-way aspect. But the beautiful thing is, like, once you've created this sort of two-way sync between these two, now I can add one here. So like added to original and come back over here, and it'll create it in the original, or just create it in the new one. And if I do added in new one, right, we can come back over to the original, and it'll add this one here. And again, the beautiful thing is you can have sort of a master database that has everything that you want, and then smaller individual databases that are shared with just the people that need that information. and both people can make updates on either side. So you can add to the original, you can have the team add to the new one, and you can easily collaborate. This is Airtable to Airtable. The other example from before was Postgres to Airtable, again, where you can have like a real company database that interacts with a smaller team working with Airtable.
That's fantastic. I love it so much. I know that people are getting excited. I have so many messages coming through privately, through the chat, like people saying, "Oh, this is so amazing. I definitely need this at work." So I guess you're gonna have new clients as well coming up, which leads me to another question we had. Do you offer educational discounts?
Yeah, so we have in the past. Feel free to shoot me an email. It's Matthew@Whalesync.com, and we can talk about that. But yeah, we typically offer an educational discount as well as a nonprofit discount as well.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I guess we can take one more question, and if you have any more questions, just post them in the chat, and we might be able to squeeze them in. So, what integrations is Whalesync focused on in the near term, and what are your challenges?
Yes, good question. So today, and just to show, we sync data between Airtable, Webflow, Notion, Postgres, and Bubble. So we wanted to start with sort of a lot of the really big players in the no-code world, and then Postgres being sort of the bridge into the code world. What's coming up next, we're still debating. The one that is coming next, and that's probably early 2023, is Webflow e-commerce. So we want to do our first move into the e-commerce space. After that, the ones that are top of mind are Google Sheets, as well as some of the CRMs like HubSpot, Intercom, that sort of world. And so just very broadly, building a two-way sync integration like this is a little bit more advanced, or rather complex, than building sort of the lighter one-way ones. And so it does take us a little bit of time to build them. And that is a challenge because we have so many people that have reached out and said, "Oh, I really want to use Wheelsync, but I just need you to have XYZ integration." And we really do want to support those. So over the next year, we'll be building a lot of different integrations, but it does take us a little time. So we'll be pumping them out as quickly as we can.
If someone wants to start using Wheelsync or learn it, what's the best and fastest way to get going?
Yeah, so I'll just show docs.whalesync.com. We try to include as much information we can about getting started. So we've got this quick start tutorial, checklists, video tutorials. You can also join our Slack group. So all of our users are in the Slack community, so you can talk to us directly. If you do run into any issues, we're always happy to help.
That's amazing. We all love our community.
Community is always the heart of any product.
I mean, the NoCode Ops product being a great example.
We got a question related to the last one. Is syncing with Coda on the roadmap?
Yes. So I think it's probably a little bit after some of the ones that I mentioned before. That being said, we see Coda similar to Notion as being one of these really key players in the no-code space. And so we definitely want to integrate with them. We've had some conversations with our team to see if we can accelerate things, but it's very much top of mind.
Perfect. Well, I guess with that, if nothing else is coming up in our questions, I guess we can call it a wrap. And thank you so much, Matthew. I mean, this has been incredible. Absolutely one of the episodes that I've loved the most. So another round of applause. Thank you so much, Jens, as well, for helping me co-host the event. He's going wild with all the reactions. We do have one more question before we wrap it up. Does this tool integrate with Bubble? Some use cases will be nice.
Yes.
I don't know about the use cases, but does it integrate with Bubble?
Yeah. So yes, Bubble.io. That is one of our 5 integrations. So definitely Bubble and Airtable seem to be a pretty popular combo. Fantastic.
All right, and yeah, I guess we can just close the stream on, sharing the screen, so we go back to our lovely faces. Well, Matthew, once again, thank you so much for being here with us today. Next week, we're going to have another event, same time, same place. And it will be all about how to create documents in one click from Airtable using documents. So if you're interested, come along. And last but not least, if I say no code, you say
Ops.
winner. Awesome. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much. Take care. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the community.
Terrific. Thank you again. This was awesome.
All right. Bye. Bye, everyone.